Hello. I think that's better. There we go. Let's lower the volume down a little bit. Okay, that's not really helping. There we go. Happy and glorious. Damn. What? The news have been crazy lately. I don't know if you guys heard, but the Queen unfortunately passed away. And, you know, here we go. We got a little tribute to Her Majesty the Queen of England and the monarch of the United Kingdom. Let's put one more. Who knew that appointing Liz Truss as Prime Minister would kill the Queen? I mean, quite literally, man. I mean, it is pretty crazy that a few days ago she was appointing Liz as the new Prime Minister. And now, yeah, and now she's dead. I mean, holy shit. I mean, truly, most of us, and I mean most of the people in the world have only known one queen. Louis XIV W. Oh, dude. I mean, okay, that's kind of true, like Louis XIV W, dude. That's so funny though. God save the Queen. I mean, I haven't felt this way honestly since the Paris terrorist attacks, you know? I mean, it's pretty fucking sad. My Hong Kong mother was devastated. So many influential political figures have died in the past 2 months. Gorbachev, that's true. Gorbachev died. Abe, who's Abe though? I don't know. And the Queen, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just shocking. I was talking with my mother. I mean, I think this is one of those things. This is like 9/11. And oh yeah, Shinzo Abe. Yeah. Sorry, Abe. Yeah, Shinzo Abe. True. The former Prime Minister of Japan. That is true. Gorbachev died like a couple months ago, right? And the Queen. Holy shit! I think this is one of those times, like 9/11. You know, like people are gonna remember. Where were you when the Queen died? And so, guys, that's a question. Where were you when the Queen died? Personally, I was talking with my mother about something. I just opened up Instagram and literally like breaking news, like 1 minute ago, Bloomberg or some of those like outlets I follow on Instagram posted a picture. And if you follow me on Instagram, you knew that I reposted that immediately. I was like, yo, what? Like the Queen is actually dead. And I actually read this morning that the Queen was actually like getting medical care, like she was bad. But I never really thought that the Queen was died. On Twitter, talking to some Anglos. Holy shit, dude! I don't think you're the best person to talk to some of those Anglos, you know. But hey, working on a cell tower and found out when I was on break. Jesus Christ! I mean, this is again. I think this is kind of like maybe not as shocking as 9/11, especially if you're American, but it's kind of like one of those things that people are gonna remember for years and years to come. Yo, welcome back. Thank you, brother. How are you? I think it's just one of these moments that I don't think people really realize how important this event is. I mean, the Queen has met prime ministers, presidents. How many presidents of the U.S. the Queen met? I mean, let's see. She was monarch since what, 52? So what? That's the Kennedys, yeah. 61, but no, she was queen before that. Yeah, there's Harry Truman. Okay, so it's a little small, but there we go. It's Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower. So, I mean, the guy that launched the atomic bombs. I think Eisenhower was her first. I think Eisenhower was her first as queen. But, I mean, she met Truman. Then who's this guy? Is it LBJ? I have no idea who this guy is. Of course, Kennedy, Nixon, Ford, Obama, Carter, Reagan, and the Bushes. And Clinton, yeah, holy shit. Oh wow, that is Truman. Yeah, it is Truman. I was taking care of my baby sister when my brother told me turn on the news. I know, right? My mom was crying. My mom, surprisingly, she was in shock. She was like, "Holy shit, the queen died." And imagine knowing a queen for 50 years of your life. Only one queen of England, probably the most. I mean, not probably the most influential monarch around the world. It is insane, guys. I mean, this is why I honestly wanted to do a stream. I was like, holy shit, we gotta talk about it. I first heard in the news when a student on my university campus was skateboarding down the streets, banging a drum and yelling, "The queen is dead." Oh, dude, that's awesome, man. That's actually pretty fucking cool, bro. And that's hilarious, by the way. Yeah, I mean, look at all those presidents, and we can do the same thing for like I mean, she met fucking Churchill, dude. There we go. Is that Winston Churchill? Let's look at this article. So Boris Johnson, of course. I saw on Reddit post that linked to a German article about it. Holy shit. Charles doesn't have enough years in his life to outdo his mom. Oh, yeah. No, not at all. Not even close. So Boris Johnson, Theresa May, David Cameron, of course. Who can forget David Cameron? Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, of course, iconic. John Major, don't know who that is. Margaret Thatcher, holy shit. James Callaghan, don't know who that is. Edward Heath, Harold Wilson, Alec Douglas, Harold Macmillan, Anthony Eden, right? The Suez Crisis. And there we go, Sir Winston Churchill. She met Winston Churchill, holy shit. The Queen's favorite prime minister, Jesus. I mean, kind of controversial. And J.J. McClellan did a cool short on what the Queen dead meant. You know the drill, let's watch it. I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy, guys. It is historical, really. I think that's what it is. McClellan. R.I.P. the Queen. Shall we do it? Yeah, now a bunch of crazy stuff is going to happen, I guess. I don't know where's Thomas, but do we have anyone else in the UK at this time? Because it must be pretty crazy. I mean, I guess people are kind of crying, aren't they? We're going to watch Twitter and see what's going on.
People used to say that the 19th century didn't really end until Queen Victoria died. You could say the same thing about the 20th century and Queen Elizabeth. As long as she remained on the throne, the world had a living link to all of the big events of the last 100 years, from World War II to the decolonization of Africa to the moon landing. She interacted with basically every post-war world leader and a huge chunk of pop culture celebrities too,
Mandela,
making her a
course.
kind of Kevin Bacon-esque figure, linking everyone from Dwight Eisenhower to Lady Gaga. Because she was around for so long, Queen Elizabeth also more or less single-handedly defined what a constitutional monarch was supposed to be in the modern era. She set the world standard for the ideal figurehead royal who was studiously uncontroversial but also very elegant and dignified.
I mean, uncontroversial. I don't know
Royalty
about
across the
that.
globe took inspiration from her. I guess the question now is whether this style of royalty is going to last for another 100 years or if future generations will say that it died along with her. People used to say that the 19th century didn't
Wow, yo. Despite the controversies around the royal family, I don't see it dissolving anytime this century. It's too institutional at this point and tied to the British identity. Oh yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when you talk about to British people, and this is of course like controversial, but I think most of them really don't mind that much, especially because I think since the 90s, the royal family has paid taxes, right? So they have a huge amount of wealth, so they pay taxes on it. And I think other than that, I don't think there's a lot of issues with it. Of course, like it is a real question though. Like how efficient is it to have a monarchy? And probably not very much. But the truth is, like you said, it's institutional. It's part of British identity. I mean, and talking about British identity, the Queen was part of modern British identity, Now the anthem, instead of God Save the Queen, now it's going to be God Save the King, King Charles III. So It's gotta be weird, right? People singing the anthem. They bring in tourism, though. That is true, though. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's some positives. Let's. Should we watch Twitter though? Twitter. CGP Grey has done a video about the financial pros and cons of the royal family. Doesn't sound as sketchy, I know, right? King Charles, the third, I think. So let's see, hashtag Queen Elizabeth. I know a lot of this is in Spanish. Should we change the location to the United States? Yeah, explore locations. No, Mexico, no. United States, let's go for it. Or should we go global? Let's go global. No, I think it's world. Okay, fuck it. You know what? Let's leave the United States. So okay, holy crap. Trending. Queen Elizabeth II, of course. I mean, this is trending everywhere. The United States, why not the UK? Okay, you're right, dude. Okay, you're correct. Yeah, let's do the right thing. I mean, I'm wearing my UK shirt, so hey, I'm doing something. Honestly, I'm sad. I'm not gonna lie. It's a weird feeling. Do you guys remember that feeling? Like, for example, the Paris attacks. That it just the world felt weird, you know, that there just was like a weird feeling that something monumental happened, because I was too young to live the 9/11 era. I was like 3 years old. Of course I don't remember, but I remember the Paris attacks as a very strange day. Everyone was worried and sad, and it was like weird, right? I think this is one of those days where people just don't know how to act. Like, holy shit, the Queen has died. Probably one of the most famous persons ever. Let's do videos. Let's see what people do. Can we watch London? Let's see, what is this?
Max Foster outside Buckingham Palace. Max, what are you learning?
I remember the Paris attacks. Yeah, they were.
The Queen has died, very sadly. She died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
Peacefully. That's good, I guess.
The Queen consort, a reference there to Charles. He automatically becomes king, will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. Just going to look at...
I know, Gorbachev was also pretty big.
If there's any extra there. No, the Queen has died, and long live the King. I'm not going to call him King Charles because we don't know what his name will be, but all we know is the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
Of course, the Union Jack flying mid
for the nation, and I can only imagine how
mid pole. How do you call that thing?
Watching this.
This might be a trend this year. Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. I was around 10 when the towers fell. I still remember the righteous indignation and rage from the adults. Now nothing more than dubious regrets from those same people about the aftermath events, of course. Yeah, the Mexican could also had a cool monarchy, but y'all king of the poor Austrian guy. I mean, he wasn't a poor Austrian guy. I mean, he was like kind of rude. The queen after winning in the gulag. What British people shutting down when the Queen dies? Oh my God!
The control ship has been destroyed.
British people when the Queen dies. What the fuck? The Queen when Meghan Markle comes to say her goodbyes. Oh man, the Queen deploying after. Yeah, there's a lot of football cancelled. I want more news clips.
Operation London Bridge.
London
That's
Bridge,
the code name given to the plan in
Lamau,
place
I know,
for the
right?
days and weeks after Queen Elizabeth II's passing. The Queen has been sitting on the royal throne since 1952.
That's insane,
That's
though.
the longest reign of any monarch in British
I
history.
mean, yeah, Queen Victoria
And
was
during
also
that
pretty
time,
big.
She's seen over a dozen UK prime ministers, nearly 20 Summer Olympics,
Wow.
and over half a dozen popes.
Half a dozen popes,
The Queen
dude.
is the cornerstone to the Commonwealth,
Jesus.
the patron to almost 600 organisations and charities, and plays a pivotal role in the UK's alliance with many countries.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So her passing will bring about a lot of change. Not just for the United Kingdom, but
The
potentially
world, absolutely. What will happen next? Yeah. Oh, when? I mean, she already died, dude.
Her private secretary, the Right Honourable Edward Young, will immediately pass a message on to the acting Prime Minister at the time.
Liz.
That message will likely read, "London Bridge is down."
Wow.
The Prime Minister will then set Operation London Bridge into action. Within minutes,
I mean,
the
that's-
15 governments outside of the UK where the Queen is head of state will be informed over a secure line.
Wow.
And that will be followed by the other 36 Commonwealth nations and leaders around the world.
Crazy,
The
dude.
gates of Buckingham Palace will then dawn a black-edged notice of the news. At the same time, a news flash will alert media around the world. Every media outlet is prepared for the news. Every radio station has a network of lights that will flash to indicate a national catastrophe such as
What
this.
the hell, dude? I mean, this is already pretty crazy, dog. Like, it's almost conspiratorial. I mean, the news are prepared for this. Like, holy shit. I mean, I get it. Makes sense, but isn't it kind of
All
strange?
BBC shows will stop and proceed to run a feed dedicated to the news. Newsreaders will change into the black suits and clothing that is on hand at all times in the news studio.
At
And
all
the traditional red
times.
BBC News branding will turn black.
Wow.
Newspapers, TV channels, and radio stations have days of coverage ready to go. On the same day as her death, the Queen's eldest son, Charles, will immediately become king.
Immediately.
And it's reported that the stock exchange, businesses, and shops across the UK will likely close for the day out of respect.
Yeah.
The day after the Queen's death, on a live stream, Charles will make his first official speech as king.
Oh, that's gonna be good,
And
though.
the government will swear its allegiance to the sound of a 41-gun salute in Hyde Park, London.
I know. Louis the
After
14th
that,
is still number
King
one.
Charles, if this is the name he so chooses, will set off on a UK tour, visiting the leaders of government in the capitals of each country.
London,
Edinburgh,
Edinburgh,
Belfast, and
and
Cardiff,
Cardiff.
before returning to London. During this period, TV channels will play the many documentaries already made in the Queen's honour.
Already
And
made.
the BBC will
What the
refrain from
fuck?
playing comedy shows as a sign of respect until after the funeral. 4 days after her death, the Queen's coffin will be led on a military procession from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall. Here she will lie in state over the next 4 days, and after which King Charles, family and dignitaries will pay their respects. Then the doors will open to likely hundreds of thousands of people.
I
queued
mean,
up
maybe
outside.
millions. I would love to visit the Queen. Holy fuck.
The funeral is estimated to take place 10 to 12 days after the Queen's passing. But one thing is certain. The day of the funeral will be an official bank holiday for the whole of the United Kingdom. The stock exchange will close for a second time in under 2 weeks, and many businesses will follow suit.
Are you from
At
Mexico
11
City?
a.m.
Yes,
sharp,
sir.
The bells of Big Ben will chime, the country will fall silent, and the coffin will be brought inside Westminster Abbey, where 2,000 specially invited guests will bow their heads in prayer.
2,000.
After the
You
service,
gotta wonder.
the coffin will be taken to Windsor Castle, and then finally to St George's Chapel, where Queen Elizabeth II will likely be laid to rest next to her father, King George VI.
Wow. Nice.
Likely within a year after the funeral, an official coronation for King Charles will take place
After
on
a
yet another
year?
bank holiday. All in all, accounting for the multiple bank holidays, funeral expenses, and coronation
Yeah, it's gonna be
celebrations,
expensive.
the Queen's passing is estimated to cost the UK economy
Billions,
of
yeah.
pounds. In addition, hundreds of changes will happen across the UK in the months to come. New British currency will be printed with the King's portrait, and the Queen's currency will slowly be removed from use.
Slowly.
The same will happen for stamps, passports, and police and military uniforms. And the national anthem will be changed to
God save
the
a king, baby.
Not to mention how the world and
not
Commonwealth
as
will
catchy,
react to the
yeah.
new king could alter the British royal family forever. For example, there is growing support in Australia for the country to become a republic,
Oh,
and the Queen's death
boy.
could heighten that support. This could lead other countries to follow suit,
Canada, maybe?
which would almost certainly weaken the British monarchy.
It's
This
already
scenario
pretty
will
weak,
one day
isn't
be
it?
upon us.
Well, not really.
Operation London Bridge will be triggered, and arguably the biggest funeral of our lifetime will be witnessed
Yeah.
around the world. This will be the end of an era.
Yeah, and the end of an era. She basically been a representative to various foreign powers for several decades now. Very respected and renowned around the world. I wonder how Charles will fare in the new role. I don't know about that. You know, Charles doesn't strike me as a very strong character guy, you know? I don't know. I don't know much about Charles. But either way, I guess we'll see, right? It says this live.
Several days of national mourning in
Look at the
this
people,
country.
though.
Her successor, as you mentioned, is Charles, her eldest son. As I said, this really
Brazil
is the
announced
end
3 days of
an
mourning. It's
era.
nice, but a
And to
little
give you
weird.
an
I know,
indication-
right? Brazil? I mean, what's... Okay, let's see. Brazil, Queen Elizabeth. It's super weird. Like, why would they do that? Yeah, it is true, though. Brazil announces 3 days of mourning. Why, though? I mean, I get it. It's nice. It's respectful. It is nice, but Brazil? I mean, of all places, I mean, it's kind of weird, though. It's like Brazil being in the First World War. It's like, all right, like, we get it, Brazil. You want to join the big boys club. Let's see, Mexico. Let's see what's going on. Because I don't know what the fuck's happening with our shitty-ass president. News. Mexico Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard, so this guy's like our foreign secretary, sent his condolences to the public of the UK after the announcement of Queen Elizabeth's death. Okay, nice. That's awesome, I guess.
Of that for more than 70 years, the national anthem of
They're
this
trying to
country
join the
has been
Commonwealth,
God
maybe. I
Save
mean,
the Queen.
maybe?
It will now
The
become
Brazilian
God
pounds.
Save the King.
There we go. That's the announcement. That's the black
Period,
announcement.
of several days of national mourning.
It's interesting
in this
because
country. Her successor, eldest son-
CBS also changed its logo, apparently. I mean, it's CBS's logo gray.
Sussex. The jersey, red Sussex. The jersey and the red Sussex.
So basically, let's also remember that wholesome clip of the Queen singing some cows.
The jersey and the red Sussex.
And you can see how she says cows.
The jersey and the red Sussex.
A Spanish Commonwealth would be cool. It would be amazing, but people are not prepared for that, you know? It's too much of a big idea to... Princess Diana, when she sees the Queen on the stairs down to hell. Holy fuck. I mean, a lot of people have, around the world, a lot of people see the Queen on a negative view. You know, I don't know. So they have some more news. Oh. At Wembley before England versus Germany. Is this true? I mean, no, this is not true. This is like an old clip, right? Yeah, Portugal doesn't have a monarchy. Yeah, I know. The only problem I have with the Queen is that she hates garlic and spices. But then it was better to represent Britain, though. That's true. Great Britain News changed their logo from blue to black. Oh, shit. Wow. Wait, what? Wait, what? Damn, I don't know if this clip is actually like true, but okay, there we go. Look at this. Look at the amount of people. Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of people wearing black, though. Of course, makes sense. I was thinking about wearing black, but I don't know. It was too much work. This looks old. Yeah, I know. I don't think that's a real clip. Yeah, probably not, right? The Queen has a place in South Wales near me that she literally never used. Never used it on her reign. That's interesting. I know Brazil was a better place under Pedro II. I don't know, man. Maybe. I mean, yeah, a lot of people remember Pedro II very fondly. There's a lot of these clips of the Queen seeing some cows, you know?
The Jersey and the Red Sussex.
Cows, yeah, I know. Cows, hashtag cows. The Irish being asked how they feel about the Queen dying.
They are about to find out. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They are about to find out.
And there's a lot of stuff about Princess Diana, which is obviously very strange.
Yes, maybe. Might easily be, yes. I won't be here, though.
Okay, let's go to YouTube. Let's watch some news on the BBC. I know, bro. She has like 17 places. Holy shit. They're what we Brits called Grammon heads. Wow, that's. I mean, let's see the BBC. What are they up to? Oh, there we go. Boom.
We are expecting the news from Balmoral that she's having treatment, or that indeed they are unable to help Her Majesty anymore.
Wow. The end of an era, bro.
A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The palace has just issued this statement. It says the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. Within the past few minutes,
historical,
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. To recap on the statement, the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King, that is Charles, and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening. And
that's
will return
that
to
new
London
reader is from the same town
tomorrow.
I grew up with. Oh, dude, that's nice. Queen Elizabeth II in her own words. I mean, this video is kind of long.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short,
I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, yo, but she was kind of cute, you know? I don't know. Is that disrespectful? Probably is, right?
In a way, I didn't have an apprenticeship. My father died much too young.
Yeah.
And so
King George
it was all
died
a very
young.
sudden kind of taking on and making the best job you can. It's a question of accepting the fact that here you are and it's your fate.
Would you want to be born into a royal family? Wow, what a question, though. Yeah, I mean, too many ceremonies, expectation, and probably hereditary diseases. I know, right? Probably a lot of inbreeding from the past. I mean, you know what? I dig it. Yeah, sure, I would, man. I mean, hey, I would love to wear a crown. That's probably badass. I don't know.
And what a genuinely warm welcome she got everywhere she went.
1,000-mile round-the-world tour to the far-flung domains of the Commonwealth, the first made by a reigning monarch.
Germany's warm welcome. Do you think the Queen was racist? I mean, let's think about that. You know, she was an old woman, right? White as fuck. Royal. What did she thought about? I don't know. Other races. I don't know. It's kind of a strange question. Can't be any worse than the king with one knot. A heart the size of a pecan and something and a brain overflowing with water. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's funny because the current Prime Minister of Britain used to be anti-monarchy. Damn. That's funny. Not all people are racist. I mean, some of them are. A lot of them are, dude. Come on. People can change, so it's possible, but I don't think it matters now. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Prince Philip, the first visit by a British monarch for over 50 years.
Another royal tour, this time to Ghana.
But you see clips like this and...
Another port of call, another official welcome ahead.
On to New Zealand, with a Maori choir singing a welcome.
I don't think you can stay in London all the time. You have to visit other parts of the country to either find out what's going on or...
And she did. She visited other parts of the country, of the UK.
Different areas, some of which have unemployment, some of which have new factories. And I think the possibility of meeting more people is very important.
Wow. Imagine meeting the Queen, though. That'd be insane. Mostly in the US. Yeah, that's true.
Silver Jubilee. 25 eventful and glorious years.
Oh, yikes. Lady D, Diana.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. In the words of one of my more sympathetic correspondents, it has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
Annus
Three
horribilis.
of her married children all having marital difficulties in the space of a matter of months, and then a fire in Windsor Castle, somehow almost suggesting a kind of divine justice being meted out on the House of Windsor.
When she was born, Lenin was in power. Holy shit. I mean, we can think about many historical events. You know, 1926, who was president in the US at the time? Like, Taft? No, I don't know, though. Calvin Coolidge, I think, was the president of the US. Mexico, 1926? I don't even know. 1926, though. China was not the China we know today. A bunch of Africa was pretty much 100% colonized, or like 90% colonized. Afghanistan was still a monarchy. I mean, yeah, let's think about facts like those, you know. Yeah, 1992, a really bad year, apparently.
I wonder how future generations will judge the events of this tumultuous year. There can be no doubt, of course, that criticism is good for people and institutions that are part of public life.
Yeah.
No institution, city, monarchy, whatever, should expect to be free from the scrutiny of those who give it their loyalty and support, not to mention those who don't. But we are all part of the same fabric of our national society, and that scrutiny by one part of another
They're showing a lot of Diana
can
pictures,
be just
you
as
know.
effective if it is made with a touch of gentleness, good humor, and
Weimar
understanding.
Republic in Germany. That's right.
This is BBC Television from London. Diana, Princess of Wales, has died after a car crash in Paris. The French government announced her death just before 5 o'clock this morning. In a statement, Buckingham Palace said, "The Queen and the Prince of Wales are deeply shocked and distressed by this terrible news. Normal programs have been suspended while we bring you the latest news and reaction."
Wow.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has died.
Now we go live to Buckingham Palace for a tribute from Her Majesty, the Queen.
She lived through the Irish-British conflicts. Didn't one of his uncles or brothers was dead because of Irish-British tension? I think so, right?
What I say to you now, as your queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute
Damn, she
to
looks
Diana
young. I mean,
myself.
well, she looks old, but
She was an
not like old.
exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
Queen and Duke of Edinburgh coming out now.
I mean, the Duke of Edinburgh, her husband, he died like a couple of years ago, didn't he? So yeah, that probably was pretty tough for her. I don't know. When she was born, Ireland wasn't a republic but a British dominion. I mean, all of that is also true for her grandparents. Like that is not special. I mean, yeah, I guess. Like 8 months ago. Yeah. Wow.
The
That
Golden
was probably
Jubilee
rough for her.
coincided with another difficult year for the Queen, because in 2002, both the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret died. So it was a difficult time in many ways for her.
Change has become a constant.
The Queen's mother died in 2002. Holy shit. How old was her mother though when she died? Like 100 years old? Jesus Christ. Did you know that Tsar Nicholas was her great cousin? I think I did know that because, a lot of the British and German and at the time Russian royal families were related, right? I mean, there's probably now German royal families that were connected to her, 102, I believe. Jesus Christ. That's insane, dog. But yeah, there's probably the Hohenzollerns that are still alive. So, I mean, there's maybe some relatives that are talking about this. That's an interesting question.
Has become an expanding discipline.
Oh, yeah, Megan.
Managing it has become...
And now, look, this was controversial, isn't it? Look how happy they look. They look super uncomfortable. Damn, look at her husband, dude. He looks like dead already. Jesus Christ. The British royal family used to have a German name until World War I. I think I remember that, yeah. And of course they changed it, due to reasons. Am I right?
An expanding discipline. The way we embrace it defines our future.
Well, just days after giving what has been described as a car crash interview on television, Prince Andrew on Wednesday
she
in a
looks like
statement
everyone's
said
grandma,
that he would be stepping down from royal duties for the foreseeable future.
Tonight, Oprah's interview with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Accusations of racism at the heart of the royal family could represent an existential threat for this ancient institution.
A statement was released on behalf of the Queen. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously
a
and
little bit
will
of
be addressed
racism,
by
dog.
the family privately. Harry, Meghan and Archie will always be much loved family members.
The outbreak of coronavirus is now undeniably a global crisis and is now officially...
Yeah, you had a lot of controversies right here.
A pandemic.
While we have faced challenges before, this one is different. This time we join with all nations across the globe in a common endeavor. We will succeed, and that success will belong to every one of us.
Who is that?
We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
Oh, that's sad,
It is with
dude.
deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. And I and his whole family, and this and many other countries, owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim, or we shall ever know. When I was 21, I pledged my life.
Wow. Whew, Jesus. Lived from the Blitz to COVID. What a life. I know. Also, she tried to pay off Andrew's victims. Yikes. Big yikes.
To the service of our people.
Oh, man.
And I asked for God's help to make good that vow. Although that vow was made in my salad days when I was green in judgment, I do not regret nor retract one word of it.
Imagine being the Queen of England. That's a heavy weight on your shoulders. Oh man, that was sad. I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty emotional. Jesus. Wow. What is this? A documentary? Yeah, like we saw on that other video, like medias, for example, this one is from Germany, right? They all have prepared documentaries and whatnot. So, hey, you know, the queen has passed away. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is the exact moment they announced it.
Through the rain, through the damp.
Welcome to viewers on BBC One. We have had news from Buckingham Palace that the Queen is under medical supervision at Balmoral.
Well, that's medical supervision,
the
though.
doctors
That's not.
had become concerned for her health, and she is now being under the supervision of doctors at Balmoral. It is understood that she is comfortable and that immediate family members have been informed, with, of course, that news that she's under medical supervision raising concerns.
Of course, they knew. Like, they knew what was going on. But I want the exact same moment, like they interrupted the transmission. No. Hey, this title summarizes it pretty well. Queen Elizabeth II, a constant presence in a changing world. There is a Liz Truss. Oh, this is in Spanish, though, so I don't know. Okay, I think we saw enough. You know, I think we saw a lot about Her Majesty the Queen. You know, so hey, it is definitely an event that's going to change not only England and the UK, but the world. You know, like that title of that video said, the Queen has always been a constant in a changing world. And throughout our lives and our parents' lives and probably our grandparents' lives, the Queen has been there. And now, in a changing world, in difficult times, inflation, COVID is still here, she's gone. And who knows, it just gives you a feeling of uncertainty, right? Like, she's gone. And I'm not British. I'm not from the UK. In fact, I'm not even from Europe. But her death is felt on this side of the world, absolutely. And I know that her death is felt everywhere, you know, from the corner of Canada to the small islands of Australia, right? People are feeling it. Do you think more countries will leave the Commonwealth now? I don't think so, you know. I don't think so. I think the death of the Queen could in fact be a unifying factor, you know. But who knows? It's a possibility. I mean, Australia, maybe. But other than Australia, not really a country comes to mind. Rest in peace, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I am calling Her Majesty. You know, she's not my queen. You know, just saying, bro. But yeah, rest in peace, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II of England, and monarch of the United Kingdom, the nations of the Commonwealth. She is gone. Rest in peace. Should we watch some videos? What do y'all think? Maybe we can watch some. I have this one from H0ser, The Death of Russia, which I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But dun, 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 dun. I know you all saw this, all right? I know you motherfuckers have seen this video, Oversimplified, the First Punic War, which I think it's a video from, I think it's like Rome against, one of the big bats over there, but I don't know, like Rome against another country. But yeah, you're right, man. Let's do H0ser because it's short. React to History of Wales. You didn't watch it? No, I haven't watched it. I have dealing with a lot of work, and so I didn't watch it. Yeah, I was waiting for y'all. You know, I'm a nice guy. Oh, we also have Geography Now Turkey or Turkey, so that's also interesting. But that's too long. I don't think we're gonna watch the Geography Now video now, but we can watch it later. Oversimplified is the king of history part of YouTube. I know, right? He's the best. He's the daddy of HistoryTube. So let's watch H0ser, man.
Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. The first 1,000 people to sign up will get 1 month free. In February of 2022, Russia decided to invade Ukraine and started a war which has changed modern Europe and the world. Who caused this war?
I support Ukraine,
Vladimir
of
Putin,
course.
of course. Or was it? Sure, Putin certainly triggered this war, is an evil human, and is the face of Russian aggression against a sovereign state, but that's not the full picture. We love to put a face onto complex issues facing literally millions of individual players.
Why is Ukraine a ferret? Honestly, man, I don't know.
Boris Johnson even said Putin would not have invaded if he was a woman, something which Catherine the Great would cry about in her grave, also having invaded Crimea. If we were to write a list of reasons why Russia invaded Ukraine,
Or some
many people
kind of
would put
billboards,
Putin as
but
number
Bill
one.
isn't doing any
I
history
would say that
content
number
anytime
one
soon.
is
I
the
know,
fact
right?
that Russia, as a nation, as a culture, as a society, will no longer exist in around 20 years or so.
Yeah,
and this is a
I
last-ditch effort to keep Russia in any sort of power before it's too late. What? Russia has always existed in our modern world. We can't have a world without it. Well, it might seem like Russia is big and mighty and scary, but when you look at the details of what makes Russia Russia, some flaws start to show and some existential crises are on the horizon. I'll show you how Russian politicians didn't decide to invade Ukraine, but how Russian geography...
What's your opinion on the East African Federation? I think... I don't think it's the best idea because a lot of those countries are really poor. I mean, South Sudan, Burundi, these are some of the poorest countries in the world. But hey, maybe it could help them. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of ethnic groups on the East African Federation. And you know what has happened in places like Rwanda, the Congo, when it comes to different ethnic groups living together? Are you going to cluster more of them? Isn't that going to cause a conflict? I don't think it's the greatest of ideas, but hey, you know, they might do a Yugoslavia eventually. I agree. It's just a big dumb thing that they want to do.
Invade, and yet the country will still fail.
It's too ambitious.
I mean, the war has already been a disaster for Russia. Instead of steamrolling tiny old Ukraine, they actually put up a good fight, cementing Russia's future as a
it's sort of a remembrance of the Winter War. You know, small Finland was able to maybe not defeat Russia, but hey, at least making them settle.
Dead nation, killing its export-led economy with sanctions and weakening the demographic and geographic weaknesses it already had. This war is the beginning of the end for Russia. This is the death of Russia. How can I be so bold to claim this? I mean, let's look at Russia. It's absolutely massive. Russia is by far the largest country on Earth, stretching from Europe to China. As a continent-sized country, they have so much land to develop for themselves. Yes and no. No, as in more than half of Russia looks like this, and it's pretty much impossible
to live
Ukraine started an small pocket of civilization wherever there is oil or minerals to be mined. That leaves all of this land uninhabited, but yes, as in there's still a lot of actually habitable land to the south and west of Russia. Here it is forested, it is flat, and it is empty. It is so hard to connect any country-wide infrastructure or supply chains together, let alone to any consumers who want Russian goods. And part of being a flat country is just naturally getting invaded all the time. The Russians have been invaded
Mongols,
so many times
Germans,
and have not been able
French.
to defend themselves with their land that their main strategy in wars has been a scorched earth policy. Basically, burn everything down and retreat into your ever-expansive land. It generally works because the Russians have so much land that the invaders break down before they take the whole country. The other strategy to keep the Russian core safe was to expand until they hit any natural or military barriers. It took them across northern Asia to the Pacific, hitting these seas and these mountains, and into the northern European plain into these forests around modern-day Poland to Romania. But in recent years, they lost this western parts and are now back here, and what used to be part of them are now part of NATO, an organization which was specifically made to counter Russian power. What used to be their natural buffer zone between the West and Russian core was now the West touching the Russian core. Sure, it's likely they won't attack Russia right now, but what if things change? NATO has many, many different ways to invade Russia and take Moscow if they wanted to.
The ferret, the Ukrainian ferret is
their historical strategy, as we'll see. And we're not done with the awful Russian geography yet. They have another major enemy, the water.
It is a ferret.
Transporting goods on land is fine and all, but it's expensive to set up and maintain, especially when your country takes up a whole continent. Transporting goods by water is cheap, easy, and reliable. The most successful countries in history are those that have internal waterways or masters the ocean. Russia doesn't have any water. Okay, that's an exaggeration. Of course they touch seas and have rivers, but they're pretty
It's
much
almost
useless.
like locked,
The Pacific
yeah.
seas are so far away from the Russian core over land that it gets rid of the advantage water even had, and its Baltic and Black Sea routes are blocked. To get out of the Black Sea, Russia needs to bypass Crimea, the Turkish Straits, the Greek Aegean Sea, and then depending on the route, either the Suez Canal and Bab el-Mandeb, or Italy and the Spanish/British/Moroccan Strait of Gibraltar. That's a lot of friends they need to make that they don't have right now. To get out of the Baltic Sea, they need to pass Finland, the three Baltic brothers, Sweden, Poland, Germany, Denmark, the UK,
Poland is
and
like
maybe
an
France,
ox.
Norway, and
What
the
the
Netherlands.
hell?
These are less friends they need to make.
I mean, let's be honest though, that's creative as hell, but a lot of times they don't make a lot of sense, you know?
More countries that absolutely
I mean, what's
despise
Poland,
Russia
an
after
ox, a
centuries of living
bull?
together and would block the route in a heartbeat. Okay, fine. Russia won't use its ports. How about its rivers? Still no. Most major rivers flow north to the Arctic Ocean,
I mean, the
which
Volga
is a little
River
too cold to
is
sail
pretty
boats in.
important.
The ones that don't flow there, like the Volga, flow to the Caspian Sea, which can't be escaped from. Then
Well,
some
okay,
rivers
well,
flow to
I
the
guess
Black
not.
and Baltic Seas, which run into the same problems as the ports there. And almost all rivers in Russia freeze anyways.
gross.
Water has never been a strong suit. That's a major reason why they
150
wanted
million
Crimea
people, but the
first out of
population's
any
declining,
Ukrainian
yeah.
invasion. It lets them have a hope of naval power. So to get anything done in Russia with its open flat land and its land transportation-based population and economy, the
Weak as
Russian
hell.
government's always treated the Russian people like hordes. Keep that in mind. The horde-like structure that the government has always used has defined modern Russia since the 1300s up until this very war. Low density from low connectivity and awful weather conditions meant Russia's population was always small and focused on sustenance agriculture. Russia never naturally industrialized, but when they suddenly were forced to, it created another crisis, something which invading another country will not
H0ser.
fix. The Russian people have a much greater problem than their geography. Their people. No, I swear it's not a racist thing. It's a numbers thing. They don't
yeah.
have enough people to keep Russia safe.
Yeah, this is what you were talking about. Like, the population is declining. They don't have a lot of time to do whatever they want to do. The country's not going to develop. You know, the army is going to decrease in size. Of course, old people don't usually make up good soldiers, you know. So, this is a big one. This is a big problem for Russia and for China and for Japan and for a lot of places, you know. The problem with Russia is that the people prefer comfort over freedom, which is proven so popular. It's because they gave the Russians comfort again. I know, right?
Safe or growing. First of all, many people don't realize how multi-ethnic Russia is. Only about 3/4 of Russia is even Russian. If things get bad, I'm sure the other quarter in the Caucasus or steppe or out in the boonies of
A lot of
Siberia.
Turkic people also. And can we go back a little bit? We've got Turkic people right here. We've got Iranian people on this province, and we have a bunch of Caucasian. Yeah, that's correct. It says Mongolian people, but I don't see any Mongolian. Oh yeah, this one I think.
That's how multi-ethnic Russia is. Only about 3/4 of Russia is even Russian. If things get bad, I'm sure the other quarter in the Caucasus or steppe
well, that's
or
the
out
same
in
thing with the
boonies of
US,
Siberia
so,
wouldn't mind some extra autonomy
you
from
know, I don't
Moscow,
know.
especially with the lack of waterways, connections, and very
But I
low
get that, yeah.
population density. But along with those fringes who could split off, Russia also does not have enough Russians. See, back in the USSR, the government maybe
They did
kind of
for the
forced everyone
motherland.
into a tiny apartment and made them get to work. It kickstarted industrialization, but when everyone now lives in a tiny box instead of on a huge farm, they have less kids. The faster you industrialize, the faster people stop having kids, and the faster the eventual collapse. Russia bolted and industrialized in about 15
Tuva is the Russian
years under
Mongolian
Soviet
Republic.
orders.
It used to be
The
part of
Russian
China.
birth rate right
Huh.
now is around 1.5 kids for every woman, below
Wow.
the 2.1 needed to maintain
Replacement
replacement
rate, yeah.
levels. This means that Russia is losing people. Every death in Russia is a forever death if you like to be cynical. The main places in Russia actually gaining people are those
Are
away
the ones,
from the
yeah,
core, which
with
happen
the
to be those
minorities.
of different ethnicities like the Tatars and the Chechens. Along with that, a Soviet
Yikes,
history
yeah.
of not exactly the nicest
I know
conditions for
Turkey
political
has
freedom or
an
food
annoying
security
tendency
killed
to try
many
to
Russians,
dramatize
and
their
the
influence on
brutality of the
Turkey
World
people
War
elsewhere.
cemented its
I
eventual
know, right?
demographic crisis. You can trace the events of Russian history on its population pyramid quite nicely. Here are the world wars, the famine in between
wow.
them, Soviet stagnation, Paris.
Look at that. Yeah, the world wars. Look at all the surplus of women. Jesus.
Troika, basically liberalizing the country, and then the collapse of the Union. The bulge down here is an echo of their baby boom here. You can see how many females are up here with no male counterpart, a product of the world wars. And alcohol. Russian men, whether through alcoholism, suicide, or crime and opioid usage after government breakdown from the USSR's collapse, are likely to die before 60 years old. During the 2000s, young men in Russia were 6 times more likely to die than young men in Iraq during American occupation.
That's saying
and that was during Russian peace and prosperity. The Russian people are quite literally drinking themselves to death. So a shrinking birth rate and growing death rate which crossed after the Soviet Union fell meant that Russia's population has been in decline since the 90s.
Good, how about you?
This is before COVID killed an extra 800,000 to a million Russians,
died, so
and the war in Ukraine is killing the remaining young men. This is Russia's last chance that it has a young male population, and a middle-aged population for that matter too. But it's unlikely a war would fix that. So if there is a demographic crisis on their way where the Russians are aging out of any consumption or export-led economy, and their geography means that they are always paranoid of an attack, how did they even get so powerful in the first place? Weren't they always doomed from the start?
Well...
Russia both was and was not meant to be a great power. The whole weak geography and modern demographic things are a drag to the current Russia.
I mean, I guess... Because not only are we facing modern times that are, very different from the, Russian Empire or even Soviet days. But, hey, Russia won World War II, right? That gave them a huge boost, that legitimized them as the superpower, right? Despite being quite devastated after, with the aftermath. They've always been a country that have invested a lot in their military. They have a lot of people, and I like he said, they treat their people as a horde. They launch, the Battle of Stalingrad, for example. They just launch their people, and people. The Germans and the Finnish, for that matter. Like, what can they do, about that? Does H0ser ever say what inspires him to give countries the animals? Honestly, I don't think he has ever said that. It'd be interesting if he ever said it. Some of them are obvious. Yeah, some of them are obvious, like the Russian bear, the French, the French thing? I don't know. Chicken is not a chicken, or is it? It has a name. The British bulldog, right? The American is like a bull or an ox, something like that. So some of them make sense, but others are pretty crazy. Historically, Russia has gone really powerful and then quickly collapses. Yeah, dang, the Queen Elizabeth, she died. One worker today is far more productive than a worker a century ago. Yeah, that's part of it.
They didn't have this demographic collapse to worry about. In fact, they had a growing population for the most part. And as just a physically big chunk of land, they had a lot of people compared to other feudal European kingdoms. Modern Russia was made by the tragedy and horrors of the Mongol conquests in northern Asia.
Oh, yikes.
The Russian people then essentially traded prosperity for security in numbers to fight out any other invaders, and there were a lot living in the steppe and all. From this, the Russian rulers always treated the Russian people badly, more as a group of numbers to throw at their problems. It was like a pack animal strategy. Some will die in any invasion, but the ones on the inside will survive, like a horde.
Yeah.
But since the Russian people lived too far away from one another, they could never industrialize,
what was that
focusing on
image?
Impoverished farming,
I know,
until
right?
they got a wake-up call.
Hell?
2, actually. First was the Russo-Japanese War, in which a supposedly inferior Asian nation absolutely wiped the floor with Russia, and second was World War I. The Russians were under-equipped, had no industry, and lacked any supply chains or coherent transportation methods.
That was a wake-up
Their
call.
strategy of just throwing people at fronts and moving forward on flat land broke in World War I when the front didn't move, and it ended with millions of Russians dying in the trenches. The war was brutal, and it's no surprise Russia pulled out of it, having a revolution and then a civil war, now turning communist and collectivist. No surprise that a community-driven, united in grief, horde-like population would be the first one ever to try out a communist government. The forced industrialization by shoving people into small apartments and makeshift factories, which would make OSHA
React to
cry.
History of Wales, please. I'll try, man. I really wanted to watch the Oversimplified video, and that sounds like a long video, History of Wales. Hello, Turkov. How are you doing, man? So I really want to give that video its time, and I don't know if it's gonna be today, man. But hey, let's see how it turns out.
Demographic collapse, but it also made life expectancy rise, causing more people to live in the USSR than ever before. This is what made Russia rise to power. It simply had a ton of people. But the whole communist shtick still didn't change the serf-like conditions.
It's only 10
but the
minutes
leaders
anyway.
couldn't
Oh, yeah.
keep the population poor forever. They
Then we
needed
can
something
watch that,
for
man. Yeah.
themselves to get rich. So quotas were made based on numbers, not value, and extra production was taken. It made people cut a lot of corners. Farmers stopped growing grain because their extra profit was not going to themselves. Mass
Yeah,
famines
communism.
ensued. Steel workers often made their plates too small or too thin to meet the number quotas. Soviet equipment failed as a result. There was no coherent supply chain or communication. That failed equipment took a long time to be made. Soviet cars, planes, tractors, buildings,
were
rockets,
shit.
and military equipment were all made by cutting corners, and they all suck. No offense. To feed this industrialization, they took from the farmers, which led to, you guessed it, famine.
More famine.
And if you complained, you guessed it, you got a free trip to Siberia. And then World War II happened, and oh boy, it was a killer. Literally. The throwing people at Germans and scorched earth policies killed over 15% of the entire country, mainly civilians. The horrors of the Soviet Union and before led to this high death rate and low birth rate. But there was hope in the 60s when the USSR became a major producer of oil
And we're
and gas,
talking
leading
about
to
a
more people,
major
leading to them realizing
oil
life sucks,
producer.
leading to perestroika, the leaders easing up a bit on the stringency of the Soviet
A
Union.
bit, you know. By the
Turns
way,
out if you give the
Gorbachev, you know, he
people a
died
little bit of
a
freedom,
few
they
months
want
ago.
the full thing. And the Soviet bloc crumbled in the early 90s, including itself. Good for the people, maybe. Bad for the whole pack
Maybe.
animal strategy. After 1991, Russia was in freefall. Their geopolitical strategy
Ukraine's
just
a
broke.
ferret,
the cut in
dude.
state
That's so
spending,
cute.
aka collapse of all government services, and drug problems led to a death rate that would kill the nation in 50 years, and Russians
She's dead,
were
yeah.
leaving in
The
droves,
queen
especially
is dead,
educated ones.
unfortunately.
Not only that, but their buffer states turned into their enemies, joining NATO and the EU. I guess that's what happens when you treat them like your own pawns. Keep in mind, this safety in numbers strategy has kept the Russians together since the 1300s, and it all ended in 1991. It was how Russia was born in the first place. It didn't matter if you didn't have natural defenses, you had numbers. It didn't matter if you didn't have industry, you had numbers. But this strategy also killed its birth rate, and after those buffer states vanished and the population literally halved after 1991 from the Soviets' collapse, there was a crisis.
She lived
Without this
2,000
strategy,
years, she needs
would
to
there
take a
even be a
rest,
Russia?
LOL.
The answer is no, and the Ukraine war was a last-ditch attempt to fix that. After 1991, there was chaos. Hyperinflation, corruption, and oligarchs taking over Russia. Economically, their industry crashed after the collapse of the Soviet Union, but their energy sector didn't. It didn't take long for a new Russia, one under Vladimir Putin, to find its new economic purpose in 1999. The answer? 2 words. Or I guess 1 word. Petrostate. Russia is a key exporter of many crucial materials, sure. Minerals, ores, food,
Do Russians
fertilizer,
want to
blah, blah.
return to the Soviet era? I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question. I guess some of them want, but I think that, especially like the old ones, you know, I imagine some of the old guys would want to return to the Soviet days, but I imagine a lot of young people wouldn't. When you can upload the Typhoon Haiyan documentary, I uploaded, man. I think so. You can search for it on my channel, but I'm pretty confident I uploaded. I mean, I watch it, like I know I watched it. Communism is really unpopular in Russia, but regaining its lost territory of the USSR is
Blah,
popular.
blah.
Oh,
But there's
okay,
nothing
gotcha.
quite like their petroleum, oil, and natural gas exports. They account for over half of their whole profile, then ores, and then metals. They love digging stuff up in their massive territory
Yeah, I
and shipping
know,
it
right?
outwards. But shipping is not easy, especially with no water.
They have no
So
water,
they
no
use
use for
thousands
rivers,
of kilometer
yeah.
long pipes to supply their
Europe,
oil to
yeah.
mainly Europe. Their pipes being mainly built in the Soviet era and where the West and East blocks met. This means their pipes pretty much don't go past Germany and the former Yugoslavia, but it also means these places with huge manufacturing
cannot find it,
capacity
huh?
get an easy source of
Maybe
energy.
I have it on the stream.
Now,
you know?
while this might
I'll
seem great
fix
for the
that.
Russians,
Let me
as they're
check.
essentially trapping Europe, especially Germany, become their sole supplier of energy,
Yeah.
and they do love natural resource-based threats, it
Yeah,
might
how's the energy situation in Germany? You know, Oira, if you are still there, brother. Like, I know that I've been hearing that energy has been getting quite expensive. So, I mean, maybe in a lot of places in Europe, but I think Germany is probably one of the worst. Is Golden Toaster here? I don't know, man. I don't think he's here. He hasn't said anything, but yeah, we need some Germans here to catch us
Might be
up.
more of a trap for the Russians. See, Russia has almost no internal demand due to their boomer age demographic structure.
Yeah.
But Europe is also aging out of demand too. But before that, Russia is aging out of an export-led middle-aged demographic.
It's getting more expensive.
Not
yeah.
only that,
oh,
but this
shit.
is pretty much all Russia has.
Sucks,
They've
man.
become a one-trick pony of an oil and metal supplier to Europe. They are extremely vulnerable to, I don't know, Western sanctions or any drop in European demand,
I'll buy
or
from
Germany
Nigeria.
rooting on coal-based energy again. This export-oriented, natural resource-based economy works better than the industrial, command-driven economy until there is any slight disruption among their energy supply lines. Any one pipeline getting blown up would have grave effects on Russia. Any slight disruption with Turkey or Greece
Much
or
World War
Denmark or
III
any
scenario
of the other
every
20
day.
countries would have grave
Nice. At
effects
least
on their
Liz
oil
Truss
that
has put a
actually
price
goes by
cap on
sea.
fuel and
So
gas.
once again,
that's nice.
demographics have screwed Russia over, only having around 10 to 20 years left before not just demographic collapse, but economic collapse. And I think it was brought a little early after massive sanctions on all things
Major
Russia. The one
sanctions.
advantage the country has going into an economic
It's its
collapse or a world
resources.
in which trade outside of Russia is greatly reduced is that Russia at least has enough food and enough fuel to keep itself running. The
Yeah.
rest of the country will suffer though. So if Russia has a weak land, a demographic crisis, and a breakdown of the strategy that made Russia Russian, why is invading Ukraine the answer? Kind of access to more people, although they would need to control a country of 45 million. Hard task. Kind of to getting
Yeah,
more land and
very
sea lanes
hard.
back. They do want that sweet, sweet buffer and human meat shield. And kind of to getting some industry back. Ukraine is an agricultural powerhouse. Russia wouldn't mind that. Their economy has been in free fall since 1991,
they
and its new
wouldn't.
strategy of becoming a petrostate exporter to Europe will fail within a decade or two. Their population was destroyed from years of Soviet abuse, and even if they restored their borders, they would still have a demographic collapse. To get its
Yeah.
power, old economy, and honestly its pride back, Russia wants its old borders. Of course, since all of these states are now NATO and EU affiliated, Ukraine
not
was the
gonna
best
happen.
choice. I mean, what Russia saw when they looked at Ukraine was a flat, weak, disorganized, divided country. And to be fair to Russia, it was all of those things. Ukraine was only supposed to be the start of
Georgia,
years of war
Finland,
getting their
others.
old borders back. Ukraine was the test ground, and it failed
it
badly for
failed.
the Russians. The
They
war is a
sucked,
stalemate,
dude.
signifying that Russia is already done. This is the final nail in their coffin. American and European strategists could go home and cheer that, oh my god, Russia can't even take over Ukraine. But then the next day they'll come back terrified and sad that, oh my god, Russia can't even take over Ukraine. If this is really a
That's
war
pathetic,
of Russian
right?
survival, then there's another much scarier option they can use. The N-word. No,
Whoa.
not that N-word. Nukes. The Russians have the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth. If the Russians really feel
Like, are we surprised about that? I mean, after hearing all of these arguments, this makes a lot of fucking sense. Less than 45 million. If Ukraine as a whole has taken, several million more will flee. Oh yeah, absolutely. Many million.
backed into a corner trying to hold on to any Russian power, nukes
Haven't already
definitely
like
are
10
not out of
million
the
escaped
question.
from
It's
Ukraine?
their final option, but if they do use it, they are guaranteeing the death of Russia anyways after they will be nuked countlessly in retaliation. A new
Countlessly.
Russia after this crisis could have an independent steppe, Caucasus, Siberia, Chinese/Japanese controlled regions, or Muslim controlled regions, or new government. I don't know the details. What I do know is by declaring this war in Ukraine, Russia has all but admitted that they know Russia is going to collapse, and they will do anything to stay in power no matter the consequences. The beginning of the end of Russia is here, but they are still here to stay for a couple of decades.
Nice.
As an increasingly panicked Russia tries to keep power, a scary question for border countries comes up. The question isn't, are the Russians going to swing at someone to stay in
When?
power? They've already done that. The question is, who else will the Russians swing at? If Russia
Jesus,
were to
that's
collapse into
scary.
economic upheaval and supply chains were to break, it would make sense for the Russian people to learn as many skills as they can for themselves.
And
since other-
Skillshare. When the invasion of Ukraine started, we all thought it would be so quick and Ukraine will fall in 2 weeks. But it seems it's going to end up to 2023. Yeah, which is pretty sad because it seems that Ukraine is really suffering, you know? And that's not nice. After that, do we have enough time for another video? Yeah, I was actually wanting to watch Oversimplified, you know. Plus, we were going to watch a really quick video about the history of Wales, which I think it's this one. Yep. And of course, but Oversimplified, I don't know, man. It's too long. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Oversimplified is great. Yeah, I know, right? It wasn't even the nominal budget itself being smaller, but the fact that so much of it was siphoned in corruption, and corruption itself is the efficiency. My country has an underrated history. We'll watch, man. Let's see. So, the history of Ukraine by Overly Sarcastic Productions. Oh, nice. Do they have the history of Mexico? That'd be nice.
The history of the British Isles is an uneven affair, to put it mildly. We're familiar with how Scotland and Ireland drew the imperial short stick and enjoyed the pleasure of being sat upon by England, but perhaps the shortest stick of the bunch was drawn by Wales, who is often left out of the discussion entirely. And while I'm shocked that anybody can gloss over the country that is a freaking dragon flag, Wales has been tragically sidelined from the historical narrative of the Isles, and I will not stand for it. Wales has impressively and improbably maintained a distinct Celtic culture since the very start, and it is far too cool for historians to be doing them dirty like that.
That is true.
To see how Wales did the
Celtic
hard carry for Great
Welsh
Britain
history is
for 2,000
pretty
straight
cool.
years, let's do some history. A proper understanding of this whole Wales business requires us to go...
Which, by the way, if you analyze the Union Jack, right, this beautiful flag right here, you'll see that there's no sign of Wales, you know, like, okay, you've got the Red Cross of England, you've got the Scottish blue field, and I think this white cross is from Northern Ireland. So, where's Welsh, dude? Like, where is it? No, I think the Red Cross is from Northern Ireland. Sorry about that.
Way back in British history. No, too far. Yeah, there we go. See, Celtic culture in Britain is the foundation of what will eventually become Wales, but these guys aren't the easiest to get a handle on. The Celtic, or Gallic people, stretched out from Central Europe towards Gaul, Iberia, and the British Isles, but also went southeast towards the Black Sea.
Yeah, even to Spain.
For us loser historians is that it's unclear how and even kinda if they settled in Britain. There are competing theories.
Okay, that's because when the UK unified, Wales was considered a part of the Kingdom of England. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
When, where, and why, ranging from the standard migration
Are there any
model,
separatist movements in Wales? That's an interesting question, though.
actually settled in Britain. Logic being that
I guess
trade was
there's
key
a
to
few,
the
right?
Bronze Age economy, and Britain's tin deposits made them a big export hub. Since tin is half the chemical structure for bronze, that meant people from all over Europe and the Mediterranean came to the Atlantic coasts to get their bronze on, and this includes our Celt boys. So it wasn't mass migration that brought Celtic people to Britain, but rather local Britons who buddied up with Celtic traders by speaking their language and copying their swirly Latin art. So according to this meme model, the local Britons thought Celtic culture was LOL so relatable XD that they adopted it all up and down the Isles. Whether or not this model is fully accurate, it would account for some weird archaeological and linguistic discrepancies in the traditional migration theory, and it also foreshadows the prestige placed...
Yeah, Celtic migration patterns have always been weird. Like, again, there's Celtic people in Spain, which means that some Mexican people have Welsh ancestry due to that fact. Well, not Welsh, Celtic ancestry. So,
on bards and literary prowess by
that's
later
interesting,
Celtic
ain't
cultures.
it?
Because it's equal parts cool as all hell and existentially horrifying that a culture can basically by itself
There's a
take hold of an
medium-sized
entire
movement for
population
Welsh
by
independence.
willing itself
Wow.
into existence. This would be our first indication that Wales has big eldritch energy. Other civilizations, however, would not follow this lead because the
Rome,
Romans found
yeah.
that culture was best delivered by spearpoint. While on their way to fill out their pan-imperial punch card and get their 10th new province free, Roman emperors in the mid-1st century campaigned into Britain. Most Roman settlements were in the south and east, where all the easy agriculture was,
Londinium,
and
which
although
would
goods,
eventually
coins,
become
and Roman legions did make
London.
their way west, the cultural and linguistic impact on so-called Britannia Secunda was only slight. Perhaps the most transformative thing the Romans did in
Britannia
Wales was leave,
Secunda,
because the
wow.
post-Roman migrations from Central Europe into Britain totally upended the island's demographics. Frustratingly, it's nigh impossible to show this kind of thing clearly on a map, which is why turbulent centuries in history with slim documentation make blue a sad boy, but here's the gist. We know the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes from Northern Europe arrived and overland displaced many of the Romano-Britons, but over in the west there was also an influx of Irish Celts coming in to settle. This age of migrations was much more overtly migratory than the Celtic.
And I guess you could even explain the border between Wales and England, right? Of course, the Anglo-Saxons, Jutes migrated to England. We know that, but hey, also Celts from Ireland. I speak a decent amount of Welsh. I'm learning it now because I am ashamed of not being able to speak my own language. Hey, that's nice, bro. That's wholesome. Celtic people used to live in most of Western Europe, but now Celtic language are close to extinction. That's sad, bro.
Arrival in Britain in the millennium before, though, again, the native Britons didn't really leave. After a few decades of raiding gave way to much more peaceable settlement, most Britons were happy to start speaking Germanic and make friends with their new Saxon neighbors than to up and book it for the hills. Still, the end result was the confinement of native Celtic culture to the far west in Wales and Cornwall. And that split explains why it's called Wales. It comes from the Germanic word wala, meaning foreigner, while the Welsh call it cymri, from the Celtic word for countryman. It's also in this migratory shuffle that the legend of the Romano-British King Arthur first pops up, though it'll be a couple centuries before he's labeled as Arthur or a king. Honestly, the whole early medieval period in Wales has this pseudo-mythic Age of Heroes vibe to it. Good documentation and blah, what else is new, but the oral traditions that will later become the core of Welsh epic literature get their start in this era. So, as far as we can tell, what was going on in medieval Wales? Well, isolation from Germanic majority England was good for preserving a unified Celtic culture, but the politics were much more wibbly. Various local princes vied for hegemony over the many disparate realms, but succession always proved their undoing, as sons would squabble and big kingdoms would shrink back to where they started. The princes of Gwynedd and Powys were the most successful of the bunch, and as a result, King Offa of Mercia built a dike across his border in the late 700s to try and keep Powys out. But that worked about as well as any frontier walls have worked throughout history, which is to say, barely. So despite the best attempts of Saxon kings and the Irish Sea, Wales wasn't entirely cut off from the rest of the world, as they had gotten on board with Christianity thanks to the missionary Saint David back in the 6th century. They might not have been the most consistent of pen pals with the Pope in Rome, but they were mostly on the same page.
Hey, yeah, they tried.
Wales' early medieval history of relative chill was aided by England's near constant Viking tire fire, which pushed Conquer Wales way down the to-do list. But that changed when our old pals the Normans kite-shielded their way to conquering England, because suddenly this new Norman England had a much stronger army and they proceeded to point it right at Wales. Norman lords pushed into Wales along the northern and southern coasts and made some, but not a lot of progress. Since Wales was made of small principalities, the Normans could play the Welsh off each other, but then all of their gains were only incremental. Not so easy as winning Hastings and calling it a day. While casual war was the standard for the next 200 years along the borderland marches, elements of Anglo-Norman and Welsh culture made their way across. The princes of Gwynedd, Powys, and Deheubarth picked up some Norman political structures, and England learned about Welsh longbows the hard way. Although Wales didn't form into a unified nation, they did get close a couple times. Llewellyn Var fought off his family members to become Prince of Gwynedd and proceeded to bap all of his enemies out of the way so that he could assert his hegemony over Wales. He also tried to streamline the rules for royal succession so that every interregnum didn't immediately explode into a civil war. He then pushed eastward into the March and King John of England
very
so
British of them to play the natives of each other
to stop being such a royal knob. Llewellyn's military successes weren't quite matched by his grandson, also Llewellyn. Though he did the biggest Prince in Wales routine again, he was defeated by England's King Edward Longshanks. The next year, in 1283, Edward pushed into Wales and stomped out the princes, using the old Norman trick of building a buttload of castles in newly conquered territory to stop the locals from getting ideas. In a twist that should surprise no one, England needed more than a few of these to do the trick, so Wales has the highest castle density of any country in Europe, with over 600 built and 100 still standing today. That is, and I really cannot stress this enough, a stupid amount of castles.
I mean, is it a stupid amount of castles? 100? I mean, that's not a lot, in my opinion.
Density equivalent of 23 castles in New York City, with a less impressive but still formidable 2 castles just in Manhattan. Good lord! In any case, the post-conquest period was a weird century for Wales. Suddenly they were subordinate to England, but soon they got tied up in the 100 Years' War, and then everybody had plague to contend with. So while it was a real wacky time, it was also surprisingly indicative of the history still to come, as England goes about its business while holding a pillow over Wales' face, gently shushing them and hoping nobody notices. Forgive me for speedrunning through the next several centuries, but I've already done the England plotline once, and that was painful enough. A century after a thwarted independence uprising in 1400, Wales had the good fortune to pull a reverso and put a Welshman on the English throne. The man in question was one Henry VII, notable ender of the War of the Roses, and
father of Henry VIII.
Set up Wales for greater integration with England and
Or
way more
grandfather?
rights than they had before.
I think
This
father,
all
right?
became official via the Laws and Wales Acts passed by Henry VIII in
Ah,
the mid-1500s.
yeah, there we go.
He drew up county borders,
boy.
standardized laws, gave Welshmen equal status as Englishmen, and gave
Hey.
Wales representation in Parliament.
Pretty
And
nice.
as an added bonus of Henry's hop over to Protestantism, the Church translated the Bible into Welsh. This protection of the Welsh language
Pretty
coincided
nice.
with a
Your
new
boy
interest
Henry
in medieval
VIII.
culture and ancient literature, and language became a defining feature of the Welsh identity. While all of this was going on, the political story of Wales got folded into the larger English
Of
narrative,
English,
what
yeah.
with the Spanish Armada-ing, the union of the crowns of England and Scotland-ing, and the creation of a globe-spanning empire. Despite playing second fiddle, maybe closer to fourth, in the history of the British
Wow,
Empire,
damn.
Welsh literature was rising in prominence
It's kind of
during
a
the Romantic
burn.
movement, thanks in part to some shiny new editions of classic works. Specifically,
Oh, wow.
Lady Charlotte Guest compiled and published the four branches
I saw the original Welsh Bible last week in St. Asaph Cathedral. I hope I'm not pronouncing that
of the
wrong.
Mabinogi, and doubly translated too, so Welsh and English readers could both enjoy the medieval folklore. In contrast to Scots Gaelic going kaput and Irish Gaelic suffering a steep decline in the 1800s that they're only recently bouncing back from, Welsh literature and poetry came in clutch for the long-term endurance of the language. But while the Romantic era was in full swing, so too was the Industrial Revolution. So all these fancy new machines and choo-choo trains needed coal if they wanted to do anything, and Wales happens to have a crap ton of the stuff. Southern Wales swiftly became the mining capital of the empire, and while coal and slate may have been big business, they were also hellish jobs to work. So Wales ended the century more urbanized than it had ever been, but the Welsh probably weren't so thrilled about why, especially as British attitudes towards them soured and Wales got the dingy reputation shared by all other regions doing heavy industry. Although
Poor,
the 1900s
like
started out pretty
peasants.
rough, what with coal
Right.
mining and a nasty spell of discrimination against the Welsh language in schools and
Wow.
work, Wales turned a corner after the Second World War. Industry diversified and politicians campaigned for more regional autonomy and protections for the language.
How do you
The
look
Welsh
that
Language Acts
Welsh?
of 1967 and 93 elevated Welsh to on par with English, granting bilingual signage, the right to use Welsh in legal proceedings, and Welsh language broadcasting. So now a third of Wales can speak the native language. And in 1999, Wales, and also Scotland, but that's a different story, got its own National Assembly, later promoted to Parliament. And that's Wales. Far too often sidelined in the history of the Isles, Wales has an enchanting historical vibe the other three
It's
countries lack.
immunization
Maybe it's the
time,
ancient
boys.
Celtic language and the dragon flag getting to me, but Wales feels older. Like you can wander slightly too far off a hiking trail and stumble into Narnia. As anybody who
I'd love
knows
to go
Welsh
to
can
Wales.
confirm, it just sounds like the language dragons would speak. And I know better than to disrespect the dragon lords. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more overly sarcastic content, be
Yo, that's actually pretty nice, though. It's in a way a little bit sad that the story of Wales gets sometimes blended with the story of England. But hey, in a way that makes some sense, all right? Especially, when you consider the United Kingdom. It's a freaking United Kingdom, right? So a lot of times what England did, Wales did. But hey, it's not England, it's a United Kingdom, so of course the other parts count. And talking about the United Kingdom, the Queen is dead, if you didn't knew that, by the way. Okay, guys, so here's the thing, though. Fun fact, Elvish and Lord of the Rings was just Welsh mixed with Irish, huh? I mean, I honestly, I didn't watch Lord of the Rings, man. Sorry. I failed you on that one. Let me get a little bit more comfortable. Welsh cakes are bomb. Welsh cakes. I don't think I've had Welsh cakes, No, yeah. Welsh cakes. I mean, okay, you just gave me some curiosity. There we go. Welsh cakes. Today, can I buy some in Mexico? No, probably not, right? Oh, they look good though. They're like, I don't want to say small pancakes, but they do look like small pancakes, right? And what's the blue thing? Are those like chocolate? Well, they do look like a little bit like blueberries, but and they use whiskey to do the cake, the Welsh cakes. Whiskey, 3 tablespoons of whiskey. What the hell, man? That's okay. Well, hey, you know, that's funny though. So Wales now has a prince. Yeah, that's true, right? Prince William is going to be now Prince of Wales, which is interesting. It's so sad that I think we're going to have a coronation in like a year for Prince Charles III. I think that's going to be like his new name, but yeah, when Charles becomes Prince of Wales, he gave it to Swansea. Okay, there we go. I mean, well, the cakes look pretty good though. So hey. Okay, guys. So, okay. If Scotland's there we go. If Scotland gets independence, will the UK remove the blue color from its flag? That's actually an interesting question. I guess they will. You know, I guess they will because it's now Scotland is no more. So I think they will. It would be funny if Charles kicks the bucket of old age before his coronation. You know, that'd be hilarious. But hey, I guess William now is kind of excited. Anyways, guys, so we have a little bit of a situation. I am pretty tired. To be honest with you, I've been dealing with some health issues lately, especially related to my heart. Yeah, I know. I did an electrocardiogram, and the results were not good. They weren't terrible, but they weren't good. And considering that I am a very young guy, 23 years old, and you know, me having small heart issues, you know, it's a thing that has to be checked out. And sometimes I'm out of breath. Also, if you guys remember, I got COVID like 4 months ago, and I think that was also pretty tough on my body. So yeah, I haven't been feeling great lately. That's the reason I haven't been streaming a lot, because I get dehydrated quickly, you know, which I already am getting dehydrated again. You know, look, I finished a liter of water. While streaming. So I was gonna do Oversimplified right now. But the thing is, it's like 50 minutes in total, and I am kind of tired. So here's the thing. And don't worry about my health issues. I know I'm gonna be fine. Maybe some medication will fix it. Hopefully, let's hope that I don't get open heart surgery. That's a scary thought. But don't worry, I'm gonna be fine. But let's do a stream tomorrow, and let's do a stream for Oversimplified, and let's also add in Geography Now Turkey. So that's 3 pretty interesting videos for tomorrow, and we can give them proper time. To be honest, I'm tired. The Queen is dead, so of course that has been a little strange. But you know what? Thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys as always. Sorry for not being very active lately. You know, that obviously affects my channel because I don't get as much views. But you know, it's more of a hobby for me than to like an actual career I would like to pursue. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next stream. Thank you so much. Bye, Red. Thank you so much, man.